am joined by the county judge of Harris County, and the order will be I will speak, and then the judge will speak, and then we have three distinguished guests who led this effort. Celeste Bedford Walker. Celeste Bedford. Can I go in that order? Is that okay? Okay, only because my staff wrote them up this way. Now, let me get out of line.
I didn't read the resolution. I wrote the play.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay.
And you tell, so Celeste Bedford Walker will speak, and then Captain Paul Matthews, and then Clyde Lemon. I'm very glad that we're doing this on today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Celeste Bedford Walker, one of the most accomplished contemporary playwrights whose play about Camp Logan helped bring awareness to the injustice and that was inflicted on these soldiers. And thank you, Clyde Lemon, who is here today, the former NAACP Veterans Chair who helped start this journey to justice many years ago. And thank you to Captain Paul Matthews, who is the founder of the Buffalo Soldiers Museum, for his advocacy and being tenacious enough to convince Judge DeCity to come up with the funding to create that Buffalo Soldiers Museum about a mile from here. Today, we reckon with the painful chapter in the history of Harris County. More than 100 years ago, the largest court-martial and murder trial in American history resulted in the wrongful convictions of 110 black soldiers. And those who were condemned, 13 were hanged in secret, without due process, in an all-white court-martial where a military officer represented them who was not an attorney. It is not a requirement that one be an attorney in a military court-martial, but one of that significance, it would have made sense to at least have gotten an attorney. As writer James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We're here today to face that history and celebrate justice 106 years in the making. Just last month, on November the 13th, the United States Army granted clemency to the 110 soldiers who were wrongfully convicted following what is known as the Camp Logan Riot. Some background would be helpful, I think. In 1917, members of the 3rd Battalion, 24th Infantry were in Houston to guard Camp Logan during World War II. They were one of 4 Buffalo Soldier regiments in existence at the time. Under the brutal system of Jim Crow, the soldiers endured severe, nonstop racist harassment and violence from white residents of Harris County and Houston, including police officers and fellow members of the military. Tensions from the ongoing violence and harassment boiled over on August the 23rd, 1917, and a violent confrontation ensued. In response to that, the United States military charged 118 soldiers with disobedience, murder, and mutiny. This resulted in 110 soldiers being wrongfully convicted, with sentences ranging from several years in prison to life imprisonment, and for some, unfortunately, death. 13 were secretly hanged without the ability to appeal their convictions. It was the largest mass execution in the history of the United States of America. In 2016, the Houston NAACP Veterans Chair, Clyde Lemon, along with Professor Angela Holder, a descendant of one of the 13 soldiers hanged, began to work on pardons for the executed soldiers. On November the 13th of this year, the United States Army finally gave clemency to the soldiers involved. For the descendants of those convicted, I hope this decision fills you with pride that your forebearers' legacy is restored. For the leaders, advocates, and community members here today, I challenge you to continue facing our past so that we can change a system that even today continues to deny justice for people of color, including in Harris County. Some of the same injustices that these soldiers face, including racial profiling, police brutality, inadequate legal representation, are issues that people of color still grapple with today. This formal acknowledgement by the United States government that this injustice took place is a big step towards addressing those current inequities in our modern system of justice. Although we are working every day to end the reliance on mass incarceration, we have a long way to go. In Harris County, we're working every day to end our reliance on mass incarceration and advance community safety. Change is not easy. It takes time and requires an acknowledgement of our past role and complicity. Today, I'm putting forward a resolution at Commissioners Court commending these families for their perseverance in shining light on injustice. Also, this resolution apologizes on behalf of Harris County for the fact that it happened under the watch of Harris County government. This resolution makes clear that moving forward, we will remain committed to creating a more equitable justice system for all, standing against the scourge of racism wherever it exists. Under our rules, I can only talk to one member of Commissioners Court, so I chose to speak to the judge. I hope there are 3 or hopefully 5 votes today that will acknowledge this atrocity and officially apologize on behalf of the people of Harris County. It is so important and means so much to me that the judge, the Chief Executive Officer of Harris County, would be here today to participate in this press conference. Would you please welcome Judge Lina Hidalgo.
Thank you, Commissioner, for including me, and to the distinguished guests, thank you all so much for your perseverance and for all those you represent that have worked with you on this, and of course those soldiers who were wrongfully convicted and wrongfully executed. I wouldn't have missed this, Commissioner Ellis, and the story is almost hard to believe. Of course, you believe it when you know about the atrocities that African Americans have faced in this country for generations, but soldiers, I was reading, they asked at least to be killed by firing squad as soldiers as opposed to being hanged like criminals, and yet they were hanged. They couldn't even get dignity in the manner of their death after a wrongful conviction. These soldiers took a vote of silence throughout their trial. They knew it was unfair. They knew it was an unfair system. It was unfair representation. And to think about the families and the descendants of these soldiers who knew that their husband, father, grandfather served in the military, some of them in World War I, and now we're being treated in this way. And so it's taken long enough, Commissioner, for this to happen, for these pardons to be issued. I want to thank all of those who advocated for this. I want to thank the Biden administration, of course, because this is a step that started with the federal government. And I think it is very important as Harris County for us to acknowledge this. The soldiers were sent by the federal government to oversee the construction of Camp Logan, which was taking place where Memorial Park is today. So this really is in our backyard. And now why they would send an all-black regiment to the Jim Crow South itself is concerning. I can't imagine they didn't think about that. But it was the local law enforcement that abused these soldiers. At one point, when they arrested 2 of the leaders, they pistol whipped one of them, a veteran, a soldier of the United States who was here helping to build, helping to protect this military installation, and then to go on to in cahoots with the federal government lead to this enormous tragedy. And so it is 100 years late, but on behalf of Harris County, I want to issue an apology to these soldiers, an apology to their families. I want to take a moment to honor their memory, and I want to take a moment for us to recognize the deep, deep and heavy history that our country continues to have to live with and to reckon with. And I think it's very important for everybody in this community to know what happened just here down the street at Memorial Park. So I'm going to repeat my remarks in Spanish and then I'll welcome the other speakers. Quiero darle las gracias al comisionado Ellis por incluirnos el día de hoy, y es algo muy importante. A principios del siglo XX, 1917, están construyendo una base militar aquí en el Memorial Park, una base militar del gobierno federal, bueno, y decidió el gobierno federal enviar un grupo de soldados afroamericanos aquí al sur, a Texas, donde se sabe que el racismo era extremo en ese entonces, bueno, continúa, pero en ese entonces todas las tragedias que ya conocemos. Entonces esos soldados empezaron a ser atacados por la policía local, la policía que nosotros hoy día, con quien nosotros hoy día trabajamos como gobierno. La policía local atacó físicamente a estos soldados. Finalmente ellos, al lado del gobierno federal, acusó a estos soldados de no comportarse apropiadamente. Colgaron a 13 soldados, los mataron. A los demás los condenaron, algunos ciertos años de prisión, de cárcel, algunos la vida por cárcel. ¿Por qué? Porque los soldados estaban defendiendo a una mujer que la policía estaba atacando, porque los soldados escucharon que venía un grupo de malhechores a atacarlos y decidieron defenderse. Entonces, hay descendientes, hay personas como las que están aquí que han estado trabajando por justicia para estos soldados, muchos veteranos de la Primera Guerra Mundial, pero en ese entonces afroamericanos. Y bueno, ya 100 años después, por fin, el gobierno federal, bajo el presidente Biden, ha ofrecido una disculpa a todos esos soldados, ha eliminado esas condenas falsas. Los soldados ni siquiera tuvieron un abogado para representarlos, los representó una persona sin título legal, representó a todos los 110 soldados. Entonces, es una tragedia enorme y quiero que todos en nuestra comunidad sepamos de esta historia, porque sucedió aquí mismo, en el Memorial Park. Y de parte del condado Harris, bueno, no podemos retroceder 100 años, es imposible, pero de parte de nuestro condado quiero ofrecer una disculpa a estos soldados, a su memoria, a su servicio por nuestro país, a tantas personas y descendientes que han venido trabajando por justicia, y es recordar lo que es la injusticia, particularmente racial, tan trágica que se llevó a cabo en este país, pero aquí mismo donde vivimos nosotros. Es historia importante de aprender y bueno, me enorgullece estar aquí hoy día, aunque sea algo triste, pero es algo que estamos pasando la página. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you. And just let them know who you are as you speak. Yes.
Hi, my name is Celeste Bedford Walker, and I come to this moment as a storyteller. I am so honored to be in the presence of the commissioner and the other members of the group who brought about this resolution. I wrote a play about the Camp Logan incident in 1987. Camp Logan is a story that I had always heard about growing up as a young child in Third Ward in the CUNY homes. I would hear the elders talking about it and members of my family talking about it whenever there was particularly some racial animus going on in the city. And I remember the elders would whisper, we don't want another Camp Logan. We don't want another Camp Logan. So I come to Camp Logan, as I said, as a storyteller. And there's the saying that if history were told through stories, none of us would forget them. We wouldn't forget them, and we would understand them, and change would come about. So I made a commitment to tell this story that I had heard all of my life about these soldiers. And I remember going to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, where they were buried, and standing at their graves, making a promise to them that I would tell their story. I don't know what else I could do. I didn't know where it would lead. I was hoping it would lead to a moment such as this, but I didn't know. All I could promise is that I would tell their story to the best of my ability. As a female, the play that I wrote is an all-male play, so I had to grapple with that. I kept trying to put female characters into the play so that I could tell it through their eyes and their viewpoint. But it's like the men told me, no, you can do it. You have to tell our story. So I made that commitment. I put together a company called Mountaintop Production of mostly Houston actors. The very first production of the play was at Kuumba House Theater, directed by Lindy Yenny. And then we went on to San Antonio, where I received a grant from the San Antonio Cultural Community Arts Center, and put together a touring company. And that touring company went on to perform at the Texas Festival at Kennedy Center. And from there, we went all around the country with the play, meeting all kinds of interesting people, performing on all kinds of stages. We would say that the actors could perform in a space as big as a small kitchen or as large as the Kennedy Center. We did over 400 performances at schools, universities, military installations, and commercial venues. In that touring around, we met many different interesting characters. It was just so unusual that so many people had connections with Camp Logan, although it was a story that had been kept hidden, actually. But I ran into descendants of the police officers, of two of the police officers, and they expressed their gratitude and understanding that the story had been told. I ran into descendants of soldiers in Camp Logan. One of the actors in the play, when he saw a photo that I had of one of the descendants, he stopped dead in his tracks and he said, I know that picture. I've seen that picture. I've seen that picture all my life. And it happened that this young man was a relative of his. And he didn't know the Camp Logan story, until he became a part of the play. So, and then we also met the first baby born in Camp Logan. So touring around, we met various people who were associated in some way or some manner with Camp Logan. When I wrote Camp Logan, I wasn't writing it as an apology for the men. What happened, happened. But I was writing it, for one, to show America itself. To me, Camp Logan is a metaphor or a mirror, because I believe that the way the Army treats its soldiers is the barometer of its soul. And I know this from stories that I've heard. My father, all of the males in my family were a part of the military. My grandfather, he knew about the Camp Logan incident. He was in World War I. My father was in World War II. My uncle was in World War II. First cousins were in Vietnam. So I'd always heard stories about black men in the military. So I knew how they were treated. And I wanted to share, what I had learned, share their stories. When I wrote Camp Logan, I decided to tell it, what it is it's a dramatization of the events that happened at Camp Logan. I decided to put together a composite of the characters as the men. And I drew from my fathers and other relatives, and some bits and pieces from the actual members of the incident and told it in a fictionalized way, but it is the true story of what happened. So coming today, I thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. I want to take a few questions only on this subject, and then they're going to be here. I know the judge and I have court at 10 o'clock, and in addition to this resolution, we're going to honor also Mayor Turner, so I know he's upstairs, so we can shake his hand before he goes in. But any questions? Okay, I think we did a good job. Thank you, Captain.